The Age of Aquarius refers to one of 12 divisions of the zodiac that the sun appears to move through over a period of about 26,000 years. A single one of these 12 segments lasts roughly 2,000 years. This segment is called an age. The vernal equinox is the moment when the sun crosses the celestial equator each year, moving from south to north in the sky. On the day of the vernal equinox, day and night will be the same length everywhere on Earth. In the northern hemisphere, the vernal equinox marks the transition from winter into spring. It has been long observed that on the vernal equinox each year, the sun does not rise in the same part of the sky. It travels backwards through each constellation of the zodiac at a rate of 72 years for 1 degree of circular movement. The movement is caused by a wobble in the Earth's axis of rotation. Each 26,000 years, the sun will travel backwards through each constellation and return to its starting point. This journey is called the precession of the equinoxes, and a full circle of movement is called a great year.
And so we see the song Aquarius by The Fifth Dimension is technically correct. 1969 was indeed the dawning of the Age of Aquarius. Now 2026 is still the dawning of the Age of Aquarius because we have not yet crossed the threshold into the constellation of Aquarius. The vernal equinox still rises in the constellation of Pisces. Pisces is understood to be a period of time more or less between the year 0 and around the year 2100. We will officially cross over into the Age of Aquarius. Now, when I say the year 0, instantly that date has significance for the world of Christianity.
In my last video, I discussed the Gnostic interpretation of the book of Genesis. The serpent from the story of the Garden of Eden has been a character in biblical mythology far longer than the character of God. The Babylonians told a story of a fishman who brought the gift of wisdom to the Neolithic inhabitants of Lower Mesopotamia. The recipients of this knowledge became the Sumerians. Many early Christians still associated Jesus with a return of the Sumerian god, Enki, the bringer of wisdom. Enki was sometimes portrayed as a serpent or a dragon, but in the original myth, arrived from the Persian Gulf, half man, half fish. For those Christians facing persecution in the Roman Empire, to identify oneself with a cross came with the danger of imprisonment or death. Thus, one early Christian would signal his faith to another with the simple image of a fish.
The age of Christianity and the age of Pisces overlap almost one-to-one. Add to that the fact that the Gnostics and Christians up until this day associate Jesus Christ with the symbol of a fish, and you've got to kind of scratch your head and ask what is going on here.
This is the construct.
We are surrounded by secular mythologies that are clearly just new skin on the bones of the New Testament. If we interrogate these stories, we see that they often mirror older stories from the Hebrew Bible, which are in turn borrowed from Egyptian or Mesopotamian paganism. Christmas and Easter line up with the winter solstice and vernal equinox. Both are celebrations of the transition from winter to spring. We assume that these dates are significant because of the harvest calendar, so think of them as intrinsically pagan. It is important to remember that these dates had significance for hunting and migration long before humans started the practice of agriculture. We live on a rock in space, and events like the solstice and the equinox dictate the fundamental rhythm of our lives.
The archways, 20 feet high and only 1 foot wide, too narrow to walk through. Then why were they built? The astronomers answer, to look through at heavenly bodies. Tradition said the Stonehenge axis pointed to the midsummer sunrise with a boulder called the heel stone to mark the exact spot. Scientists said it was only approximate, inconclusive. But according to Hawkins's figures, The heel stone marked the sunrise exactly.
Today we are beneficiary to hundreds of years worth of archaeological work that has been done on the building of Neolithic architecture. What's fascinating is that 9 times out of 10, these megalithic structures that we see all over the world were built for exactly the same purpose. They were sundials. These people just kept building sundials, not just in Europe, but in Korea and Africa and Central Asia. That is the primary purpose of this megalithic architecture. This tells us a lot about the value structure of our ancient forebears. And I sort of like to think of it like software. You have higher order languages which compile down into lower order languages, and then they compile down again and again and again until you get to a sort of machine code type language, which then compiles down into sort of binary, the sort of like the base level of meaning. And I think if you take our sort of modern political philosophies and the stories that we tell each other now, these sort of high-level, sophisticated languages, and you boil them down into sort of the religious undertones, and then the mythologies that inform them, and then inform them, and inform them, and inform them, you don't need to look any further than Neolithic architecture to understand that the proto-mythology of planet Earth is astrology.
The Great Sphinx of Giza is one of the most recognizable monuments on Earth. Carved from a single limestone outcrop on the Giza Plateau, it stands 66 feet tall and 240 feet long, with the body of a lion and the head of a pharaoh. Mainstream Egyptology dates its construction to approximately 2500 BCE, during the reign of Pharaoh Khafra in the 4th dynasty. According to the conventional view, it was built as a guardian for Khafra's pyramid complex. But a long-standing mystery surrounds the Sphinx's age. The most compelling evidence for an older date comes from the deep vertical fissures and rounded, undulating weathering patterns visible on the Sphinx's body and the walls of its enclosure. Geologist Dr. Robert Schoch has argued that this type of erosion is characteristic of prolonged exposure to heavy rainfall and runoff, the kind of precipitation that occurs in subtropical climates with seasonal monsoons.
So we have a giant stone monument, the Sphinx, in the middle of a sandy desert, which has been exposed to hundreds of years of rain erosion, which just begs the question, where was this built? It couldn't have been built in its current position now. Where did all the rain come from? Well, perhaps the real question to ask is not where was it built, but when was it built? An interesting thing to note is that the human face of the Sphinx does not have the same rain erosion, suggesting that it was carved later from an original monument.
The African Humid Period was a major climate phase when the Sahara Desert transformed into a lush, habitable landscape. It occurred roughly 15,000 to 5,000 years ago. The dominant driver is precession, the slow 21,000-year wobble of Earth's axis, also known as the precession of the equinoxes. As a result, phases of the re-greening of the Sahara have recurred roughly every 21,000 years, directly paced by the same precessional cycle that defines the astrological ages.
To calculate when the Sahara will turn green again, geologists use the Milankovitch cycle. The Milankovitch cycle is a period of 21,000 years, exactly the same period of time as the precession of the equinoxes. Why are they the same? Because they're caused by the same thing, this same wobble in the Earth's axis of rotation. So it is new language to describe a concept which has been known about since before we have written record of anything.
According to Babylonian tradition, a mysterious amphibious being named Oannes emerged from the Persian Gulf during the early Ubaid period. Each day, Oannes taught the Ubaid people the fundamentals of civilization. These teachings, the legend says, transformed simple villages into the foundation of what became Sumerian culture.
I spend a lot of time in this channel talking about the Sumerians and the fishman Oannes, who gave the gift of civilization to the inhabitants of Lower Mesopotamia called the Ubaid culture. I am not going to focus on the fishman in this video, but instead on the Ubaids themselves.
One major field of knowledge was not among Oannes' gifts: astrology and advanced celestial observation. This is because the Ubaid people already had an advanced understanding of celestial movements, inherited from earlier cultures and embedded into their mythology.
And this is how knowledge and culture work. We know this. There is no immaculate conception of these mythologies and these stories. They go back and back and back and back and back until, frankly, who knows when.
An outdated history of the zodiac states that the modern zodiac was conceived in Babylon in its entirety. This is now understood to be false, as the Sumerians had their own system of celestial subdivision. The Sumerian zodiac had 18 divisions, rather than the Babylonian 12, but 3 star signs that are known to be common to both are Taurus, Scorpio, and Leo. The arrival of the fishman and dawn of civilization took place in the Age of Taurus, an age where the Hebrew god Yahweh was threatened by the false idol of the bull. Taurus is by no means the beginning of the story of the zodiac. For this, we need to focus on another star sign used by the Sumerians, Leo.
And perhaps you can see the shape that this argument is beginning to take. One thing that we should ask ourselves is, are these star signs of the zodiac, this mapping of symbols to constellations, because let's be honest, Taurus could be interpreted as many things. It doesn't necessarily have to be a bull. The fact that there are these consistencies do point to knowledge sharing and perhaps an earlier root culture that seeded the zodiac.
Göbekli Tepe in southeastern Turkey was built between 9,600 and 8,000 BCE. Here we find some early potential evidence of organized celestial observation, although still far from the earliest. Several researchers have identified strong astronomical connections in the site's T-shaped pillars. The most discussed is Pillar 43, the so-called vulture stone, which appears to depict a specific arrangement of constellations, including a scorpion and a vulture, argued to possibly represent the next sign in the modern zodiac, Sagittarius. Some analyses suggest it records the sky as it appeared around 10,950 BCE, possibly marking a major comet event at the onset of the Younger Dryas. Importantly, among the animals prominently carved across the site, we find bulls, scorpions, and lions.
Now, no one would make the argument that all of these different mappings and observations line up one-to-one. They don't. The Sumerians divided the sky into 18 parts, the Babylonians divided it into 12 parts. What I'm saying is that if you look up at the chaos of the night sky and then try to imagine our ancient ancestors doing the same and somehow arriving at mappings of scorpions, bulls, and lions over the exact same collections of stars by coincidence really challenges credulity. The more likely scenario is probably a proto-society.
Neolithic cultures across Europe, Mesopotamia, and Africa built sophisticated megalithic observatories. From Stonehenge and Göbekli Circle in Europe, to early alignments in Mesopotamia, to Nabta Playa's calendar circle in Africa. These same societies shared a common, sky-based mythology. The people who shared knowledge of how to construct megalithic architecture also shared the Proto-Mythology of our world, which was written in the sky. Nowhere is this more obvious today than in the Sahara, where a piece of megalithic architecture sits vandalized and eroded, but still bearing the unmistakable form of a lion.
Let's not be ambiguous about this. There are incredible stone megalithic structures that map celestial coordinates in Africa, the Nabta Playa stone circles, in Britain, in Anatolia, in Mesopotamia. But if it was indeed the case that the Sphinx was constructed by Neolithic humans, it would challenge everything that we think we know about the ancient past.
When the Sahara turned green 15,000 years ago, the sun at the vernal equinox was beginning to rise in the constellation of Leo. It does seem to be the case that over that 2,000-year period, the sun would rise in the east to sit in the constellation of Leo, and staring at it from high above the lush subtropical rainforest that is now a desert, was the colossal effigy of a lion. Using the Milankovitch cycle, scientists can predict that in 12,000 years, the African monsoon will begin to strengthen again, bringing rain to the Sahara. And about 15,000 years from now, the Sahara will once again be green, and the Sphinx will once again face the vernal equinox, rising into the constellation of Leo. The year is 1969. Families across America sit in front of their TVs tuned in to The Ed Sullivan Show. Tonight, Ed welcomes a band called The Fifth Dimension who perform a song called Aquarius. The song begins with astrological coordinates and announces the dawning of the Age of Aquarius no less than 20 times. For conservative families across 1960s America, there must have been only one question on their minds. What in God's name is the Age of Aquarius?